This is the Heart of the Matter with Dr. Carol. For such a time as this, a heart to serve. Hello and welcome back to the Heart of the Matter. Today's episode is deeply special to me because it speaks not only about heart attacks, but about identity, pressure, ambition, survival, and what it means to truly live well. My featured guest today is the wonderful Esther Stanhope. Esther is a former senior producer at the BBC turned international speaker, author, and visibility expert, who now helps individuals and organizations communicate with confidence and impact. She's also the author of 2 books, including her latest, Visibly Brilliant, which has just been shortlisted for the Business Book of the Year Awards 2026. A tremendous achievement and very well deserved, Esther. Congratulations. But today's conversation goes beyond professional success. Because in 2017, at just 45 years old, Esther experienced a heart attack. And like so many women, it did not look the way people expect a heart attack to look. The signs were subtle, easy to dismiss, easy to rationalize, easy to push through, until suddenly they weren't. What I love about Esther's story is not simply that she survived. It is that she has used the experience to rethink life, health, purpose, and how she shows up in the world. And I think many women listening will recognize parts of themselves in her story. The pressure, the pace, the juggling, the constant sense that everything depends on you. So today, I want to take you into Esther's story. Not just medically, but emotionally and humanly. So, Esther, take us back to 2017. What was life like for you before everything changed?
I've always lived life at full speed. I was a senior producer at the BBC, live studios, breaking news, adrenaline. I absolutely loved it. That environment really suited me. Fast, high pressure, always on. And then I set up my own business, speaking all over the world, which, if anything, made life even busier. I was a mum, I was running a business, travelling constantly and carrying quite a lot of pressure. Financial pressure, emotional pressure, all of it. Like a lot of women, I just kept going, kept juggling. People used to say to me, Esther, you need to slow down. And I used to think, I'd honestly rather die. Little did I know.
What strikes me listening to Esther is how familiar this rhythm of life sounds for so many high-achieving women. Success, responsibility, performance, pressure, constant movement, and often, underneath it all, a quiet assumption, I'll rest later. Esther was thriving professionally, traveling internationally, speaking on stages, raising children, building a business after a high-pressure BBC career. And yet, as she herself reflects now, she did not fully appreciate just how much strain her body was carrying. Then came the whispers. Not dramatic, not cinematic, not the classic elephant on the chest people are taught to expect. More subtle than that, more ambiguous, and perhaps, therefore, more dangerous. Esther, please tell us, when you first started experiencing symptoms, what did they actually feel like? And why do you think they were so easy to dismiss?
The strange thing is, it didn't feel dramatic. It all started on a business trip to Amsterdam. I was at the airport. I just couldn't catch my breath. I was hot. So I blamed that. And then it happened again. At the airport again, the same feeling. I felt hot again. And a slight pressure in my chest. I remember thinking, this doesn't feel right, but it's not what a heart attack feels like. It wasn't an elephant on my chest like they say in the papers. It was more like a cat. So I ignored it. Because it was mild and I was busy. And I just didn't believe it could be anything serious.
I think that phrase Esther uses is incredibly powerful. It wasn't an elephant. It was more like a cat. That one sentence captures something deeply important about women's heart health. Because many women are not experiencing dramatic, crushing chest pain. Instead, breathlessness, tightness, fatigue, nausea, arm discomfort, feeling not quite right. Symptoms that can easily be explained away by stress, hormones, exhaustion, travel, anxiety, or simply being busy. And busy women are often exceptionally skilled at overriding their bodies. What makes Esther's story even more striking is that she continued traveling, speaking, and even attended a CrossFit class while her symptoms were unfolding. And honestly, when she shared that part with me, I smiled. Not because it was funny medically, but because it was so human. So many of us continue functioning long after our bodies are asking us to stop, to pause. You were in New York, speaking on stage, even going to a CrossFit class. What was going through your mind at the time?
Then I flew to New York on another business trip because, of course I did. I was speaking at a big Women in Leadership event, talking about confidence. I was talking about being on stage and all that kind of thing. And afterwards, I felt really dizzy. My breath wasn't quite right. I couldn't quite catch it. So naturally, I carried on. The next day, I even went to a CrossFit class in America. Who does CrossFit mid-heart attack? I do. Within minutes, I was sweaty, I was dizzy, I couldn't breathe. I felt really weird. And you know what my main concern was? I'll be really honest with you. I was more worried that people might think I'm really unfit. I wasn't worried about my heart health. I was more worried about my ego. That's awful.
There's humour in that story. But there's also something sobering underneath it. Because what Esther describes is something many accomplished women understand instinctively. The drive to keep going. The reluctance to inconvenience others, the tendency to minimize our own symptoms, and sometimes even the embarrassment of appearing weak. And yet, the body keeps speaking, quietly at first, then louder. One part of Esther's story that deeply moved me was the influence of her father's heart attack when she was just a child.
My dad died of a heart attack when he was 40. It was in August 1977. The same week Elvis Presley died. Can you believe it? I was 5 years old and I genuinely thought that all the people in the streets of London hugging and crying were doing it because my dad had died. That's so sad. So in my mind, heart attacks always meant death. not something you survive. And definitely not something that happens while you're wandering around New York trying to do burpees. By the way, have you ever done a burpee? Don't try it.
In her mind, heart attacks belonged to a category: older, dramatic, catastrophic, final. Not something you survive whilst wandering around New York trying to complete burpees. And I think that misconception still exists for many women today. Eventually, after returning to the UK and struggling even with a short walk from the tube station, Esther contacted her GP. One question changed everything. Have you had any pain in your arm? Soon afterwards, investigations revealed a blocked artery requiring a stent. And during the procedure itself, Esther experienced a transient ischemic attack, TIA, or mini stroke, as we refer to it. A terrifying experience for anyone, but especially for someone whose entire career and identity had been built around communication and speaking.
When I got back to the UK, I still didn't feel right. I immediately called my GP and the receptionist said, "Have you had any pain or numbing in your arm?" And I said, "Yeah, my left arm feels quite numb." And she said, "Go straight to A&E now." Even sitting in hospital though, I still didn't think it was serious. I actually asked the cardiologist if I would be out by 3 o'clock to do a work call. They looked at me and they simply said, no. And then later a nurse said to me, "You know you're being treated for a heart attack." And I remember thinking, I thought they'd got it wrong. Afterwards, I had to really stop and reassess everything. For a while I blamed myself, the stress, the pressure, trying to do everything, being a bit of a workaholic. I felt really guilty. But now I see it differently. It's not about blame, it's about awareness. I've changed a lot since then. For example, I do yoga every morning. Short, yes, very short sessions, because my attention span hasn't improved. I actually take a few minutes just to breathe, which I never used to do before. I'm much more mindful now of my time, my energy, and my mental health. And I didn't realise how much strain I was under until I stopped.
Yet, perhaps the greatest transformation was not simply physical survival. It was perspective. Because serious illness has a way of clarifying things. It forces questions many of us spend years avoiding. What really matters? What am I chasing? What is this space costing me? Am I living well or simply functioning efficiently? Esther speaks beautifully now about awareness, not perfection, not suddenly becoming endlessly calm and balanced, but awareness. Awareness of her body, her limits, her energy, her priorities, her time. And honestly, I think this is wisdom. So Esther, if there's one message you want every woman listening today to take away from your story, what would it be?
If there's one thing I'd like to say to women, it's this. Heart attacks don't always look dramatic. It's not like the movies. They can be subtle, easy to dismiss. Especially if you're used to pushing through everything. Your body whispers to you first. And if you ignore it, it will eventually shout. So listen to your body sooner than I did. Check your blood pressure. Check your cholesterol. It doesn't take very long, and it could save your life.
Your body whispers first. Ignore it long enough, and eventually it will shout. What a powerful line. And I think this episode carries an important message. A heart attack is not the end of a meaningful, impactful, ambitious life. Nor does it mean shrinking into mediocrity. In many ways, for Esther, it became a wake-up call, a recalibration, a reordering. And perhaps that is where I want to leave today's episode. I often say, spirit over status, purpose over pressure, health over hustle. And what do I mean by that? Spirit over status means reconnecting with the deeper calling that transcends job titles. Purpose over pressure means choosing alignment over achievement. Health over hustle means recognizing that your body is not something to endlessly push through. It is the vessel carrying you through the life you are building. This is not about doing less. It is about being more. Rebuilding from a place of wholeness rather than depletion. Because sustainable success is not measured simply by how much we can endure, but by how well we are able to truly thrive. And Esther's story embodies that beautifully. Not only because she survived, but because she continued creating, speaking, writing, impacting, and showing up powerfully in the world afterwards. Her latest book, Visibly Brilliant, has just been shortlisted for Business Book of the Year 2026. A reminder that adversity does not have to diminish us. Sometimes it refines us. Esther, thank you for your honesty, your vulnerability, your humor, and your generosity in sharing your story with us. And to everyone listening today, please listen to your body sooner than later. Your health matters, your life matters, and you matter. Thank you for listening to The Heart of the Matter with Dr. Carol. Remember, your voice matters and your story has purpose for such a time as this.